I support Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency.
Republicans are finding out just how unpopular they are as more and more of these town halls are taking place, and constituents can finally voice their discontent about the way that MAGA is ripping apart the federal government by the seams.
You are tearing me apart!
MAGA. This time it's Representative Mike Flood who thought it would be a good idea to expose himself to the public to get the flogging he so desperately deserves. I'm not sure if these Republicans just have a humiliation fetish or what, but I sure enjoy watching them get put in their place.
Elon Musk gets $40 billion a year in funding from the federal government. What makes you think that has no conflict of interest, that he has no conflict of interest? Do you think he would cut that before he would cut our Medicare or our Social Security or our jobs?
I support Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. Next question.
I love how he ran away with that BS answer just because there was a little bit of fire in the question. He supports Musk and Doge, but he's not going to speak to the $38 billion that we've given him in order to prop up his little empire. Before we get to the rest of the clips, I just wanted to let you guys know that we just launched our Substack. There's going to be tons of commentary, breakdowns, and news in written format. So if you'd like to support the channel and the Really American team, the link is down in the description. Well, we have to give a little bit of credit to old Mikey here for actually showing up to get lambasted face to face by his constituents. It's not like his answers to the questions made anybody feel better about this current administration. There were more boos in this town hall than a haunted house.
First of all, I do want to say shame. I want to say shame for your comment, your quote that you said, President Zelensky's approach today was disrespectful to President Trump and undermines the goal of bringing peace and that. So shame on that. But, second of all, I am the daughter, the niece, the sister of veterans, Korea veteran, Iraqi war. I have received the American Legion Auxiliary newsletter for quite a long time. For decades, they have stated that we are underfunded and understaffed, repeatedly stated that. You have said otherwise with Doge. Who's lying, them or you?
We owe our veterans the best possible care we can afford. I'm going to say it again. It's a promise we made. It's a promise we'll keep. And it is important not just to Republicans. It's important to Democrats. It's important to independents. Supporting our military and supporting our veterans is something that should unite us as Americans. And I will work as your member of Congress to address that. I do believe that that White House meeting was a disaster. And I believe that President Zelensky should have signed that agreement. The other thing I believe is that you read from a press report, and in that same press report, I said 4 things. I said, number 1, Ukraine should give up no land to Russia. They should return the 20,000 kidnapped kids. We should support NATO, and we should have better relations with Ukraine. That has been my position on Ukraine from the start. Next question.
Expert dodge of the question, Mike. Her question was about firing staff at the VA and making services for veterans even worse because Doge says that it was waste, fraud, and abuse. Her question was who's lying, you or them? And he only answered to her first remarks at the beginning, which weren't even the question. This is why these town halls are so important, because these Republicans have no real answers to excuse their behavior, and they're going to stick their head in the sand and ignore what their constituents are saying regardless. But forcing them to cower and squirm like this because they can't explain why they're letting Elon Musk make more homeless veterans is going to be extremely valuable ammo come next election cycle. Mark my words, these town halls are going to be seen as a major misstep for the Republican strategy. That's why Mike Johnson was telling his representatives not to do them, because if you do, you end up with moments like this.
Okay, let's talk about this. So your proposal to solve this is to tax the rich.
Hell yeah, this is exactly what we need. More chance of tax the rich when the Republicans scratch their heads and ask us, well, how are we going to pay for the massive deficit we keep passing? Like, yeah, man, tax the rich. Not only do they pay less than half the taxes that the average American pays, but corporate taxes are also underpaid. There's tons of loopholes for the rich to exploit to get out of paying taxes, and the method by which millionaires become billionaires through unrealized gains aren't taxed at all. So if you're going to be bitching and moaning about the debt, which the Republicans are largely responsible for, what kind of sense does it make to not tax the rich? This moment was so interesting to me. I had to see what Mike said in response to tax the rich.
A balanced budget where we... How can you be against a balanced budget? How can you be against a balanced budget? All right. All right. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So your proposal to solve this is to tax the rich. So, let's talk about this, because this is actually a very good point. If you look at President Joe Biden's last State of the Union address, he had a proposal called the millionaire's tax. President Biden proposed a millionaire's tax. And let me tell you, if it was enacted, it would raise $50 billion a year. That's about 200 times less than what we need to address that. So even your proposal to tax the rich fails wholeheartedly. Oh, and also, by the way, that would also hamper our nation's growth. If you're going to ask me... All right, next question.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but I wanted to start with the fact that he seems to be conflating balancing the budget with the entirety of our national debt. The US has a staggering $38 billion in debt, but balancing the budget doesn't mean getting debt down to zero. Balancing the budget just means that the money that the government takes in the form of taxes and other revenue generation is more than the money that we spend in the form of services. The proposed Republican budget calls for massive cuts in government spending, but it also calls for massive cuts in taxes for the rich. So what ends up happening is an increase of the deficit by $1.6 trillion over the next decade. That proposed billionaire tax from Biden that would have brought $50 billion a year was just raising the minimum income tax rate for people making over $100 million a year to 25%, which is the average for Americans. But Biden also proposed raising corporate taxes, which was estimated to bring in another $25 billion a year. For the math heads keeping score at home, we're $160 billion over our proposed budget from the Republicans, and taxing the rich would bring in an additional $75 billion a year. That means half of the proposed deficit would be eliminated immediately just by changing these two taxes on the rich. We all know that trickle-down economics is like getting pissed on and then being expected to be thankful for the water. Hopefully more of these Republican dopes do these town halls so we all get a chance to point and laugh. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.